Peace. Good morning. I'd like to welcome you back into another edition of the File Playland. As always, I'm your File Player. I want to make a follow-up video regarding Deontay Wilder and his accusal of Tyson Fury of cheating, in addition to accusing his old coach maybe being involved, or the referee also like having a part as to why he lost in the rematch against Tyson Fury. It's been, as of my count, 9 days since he made a lot of these accusations of Tyson Fury. Since those 9 days, I mean, we haven't heard anything. I mean, at least I haven't. I'm pretty in tune with, you know, boxing coverage as it relates to the internet. But we haven't heard anything else like as a follow-up. I think even a lot of the people that were really stomping their feet as it pertains to this subject in defense of Wilder, which I wasn't one of them. I wasn't one of them since he's come out after like October 31st. But even a lot of them, which I follow, pretty closely, like boxing YouTubers that were playing defense of Wilder, or were in defense of Wilder. I haven't even heard a lot of them speaking on it neither. I mean, or if they have, it's like kind of like a losing battle, because you don't have much more to run on. I mean, like in Wilder's case, I think he should have been like at the forefront of getting that story out there to as many venues as possible. It's a big story. I mean, it got covered on the biggest podcaster in the world, in Joe Rogan's show. And it was, I mean, not to say that Joe Rogan's Jesus Christ or like the final authority, but Joe Rogan did it, or covered it as in a disappointing fashion, like, saying that he's doesn't know why he like making it seem like Wilder was making excuses. And I kind of like am thinking along those same lines, and not because I got my opinions from Joe Rogan, but because I think that a lot of the what Wilder's saying doesn't add up to sync up with me. But I'll get to that in a minute. But I mean, it does strike me very suspiciously that Wilder hasn't really followed up with anybody on that. And I think being that Joe Rogan covered it, not solely because of that, but also because Wilder's a big celebrity. I mean, like, even if you're a hater of Wilder, you gotta agree with the fact that Wilder is no less than a top 5 name in all of boxing, even after the loss. I mean, you can't really deny it. You want to say, out of active fighters, Pacquiao and Canelo, AJ, maybe Tyson Fury. I mean, I think Wilder is probably neck and neck with Tyson Fury as far as popularity worldwide, even after the loss. But no welterweight is bigger than Wilder, So I think anybody would grant him an interview, especially on such a subject like this that's so salacious. I think anybody, including like Joe Rogan, who, like I said, has the biggest format or platform in the world, would grant him an interview. I think in a way, I mean, like, he knows like that some people like would, based on like where like their standings are as far as on all YouTube and all social media, like probably wouldn't poke holes in his story. Neither would I. I mean, like, I'm not gonna front. Like, if Wilder was telling me that story, like or granted me an interview, I'd be like, I'm not gonna be like, oh well, I think you're bullshitting, even if I felt that way, because it's a big deal. I mean, like, I'm not saying that like the people that he did give those interviews to had that frame in mind, but I think somebody like a Joe Rogan, or somebody like an ESPN, or maybe somewhat that PBC show that they have on Fox or Fox Sports, maybe they would have been more apt to try to poke holes in the story or like do some deeper digging um, as it pertains to what they find suspicious with the story or the things that don't make sense. Um, so yeah, we're still in the same area. I mean, like we're still like are where we were when we left off, like on October 31st. In fact, I think we're as fans of Wilder, like me, in a worse position than we were on October 31st. He hasn't really followed up with anything. Nobody from his team has mentioned anything either. And even if they did, I don't give a shit about like anybody from his team following up with the story. At this point, especially, I mean, like now that Wilder's kind of opened the floodgates, he should be at the forefront of putting that story out there. Now, I mean, like people haven't really covered this angle from what I'm seeing, but I think that maybe the excuse could be used in the future that he's trying to sell a rematch with Fury. But from the looks of it, I mean, Fury's going to fight somebody else entirely for the time being. And that makes little sense to me. I mean, even if that's the case, that doesn't really. I mean, maybe it does in an offhanded way, but it's corny, like to sell a rematch in that fashion. And I don't think they're selling a rematch. I don't think that he's, even if you don't want to put that story out there, like more or like as Wilder, you calling out Fury, November 1st till November 9th, after October 31st when he came out with the accusation of Fury, I think would have done him a lot of justice. I mean, like, since he's lost to Fury that second time, I mean, I haven't seen much of an indication from Wilder himself that he wants to fight Fury a third time. I mean, like, now, like, coming 8 months later and coming with the accusation that Fury cheated, and coming 9 days ago saying that he wants to fight him. I mean, that's maybe like 2 or 3 times that I've heard him say that he wants to run it again with Fury since he's lost to him. If that, I mean, I'm giving him credit, like saying that it's 3 times. I don't even know if it's reached 3 times, but it's corny to see. I mean, like it's disappointing to a degree. I talked to somebody about that too, and they mentioned the fact that because I said that he should have ran to the authorities from Jump Street. I mean, like, and not to say that I have all the faith in the world in the commissions and whatnot, and like, I have no faith in that. I think you could buy people like that off easily. I mean, like, you throw 50,000 here, 50,000 there. Those people let you go into a boxing room with spikes in your head. So I mean, like, I don't put, I would never use that as like my sole counter argument as to why I think he's cheated. Like, the commissions were privy or watching them put the hand wraps on. Nah, I mean, like, I think anybody in boxing, especially, which is not a humongous sport, could be easily swayed by a couple bucks being thrown here and there. And I mean, like, I've heard stories from that personally. Like, I know people that are referees. I actually had the privilege of going to college with a active New York State commissioned referee, who's friends with the biggest referees. I mean, he stood at their houses in Las Vegas, and he's told me like tons of things that were like super funky, just on the refereeing side. So I mean, like, could a referee or a commission member be swayed? Absolutely, but I don't think that's what happened here. Like, because that's not like the case that was being made. And initially when the glove thing came out, I mean, like, I thought from Jump Street, without Wilder saying anything, that yeah, maybe Fury could have cheated. And I don't like young Pharaoh, like the dude who first came out with the videos. Like, I don't like him one iota. I've always made it clear that I thought he was a little bit like I treated him, as far as viewership goes, like with a little bit of caution. And I knew, and if somebody wants to say, like, or mention the fact that I'm not like black and I can't speak on like a conscious community speaker like Young Pharaoh, I knew of Young Pharaoh before almost any of you even knew Young Pharaoh existed. Like, I know mad people on 125th from the old 125th. Like before, like most of these people, like when a lot of these people who are conscious speakers, um, were audience members or like inputters. They weren't like speakers. So like in the classical sense, or from what or how you would think it would be. I met Hassan Campbell as a teenager. You know, so I think I have all the right to speak from that perspective. But I thought he was a little bit or I didn't really flow with Young Pharaoh style, like, but even in spite of all that, when he came out with the video, I thought that he had really good evidence. I thought, like, regardless of who it came from, I mean, it could be Hitler coming out with evidence of cheating. If it's legit, I got to run with it. I mean, like, I can't deny like the facts are facts. But yeah, when Young Pharaoh kid did come out with the video, like couple days after the fight, I thought that there was legitimate cause for pause, like from the video evidence that he presented. So I mean, like I'm trying to take things really from the outside looking in, and if Wilder would have followed that up, even 2 months after some of that first video evidence and some of that those stories were receiving traction as far as Fury cheating, I would have been riding with Wilder the whole way. But I mean, like, it's kind of like lost me a little bit, like as far as him coming out this late in the game with these accusations. And I still think that there's a good chance that Fury may have cheated. Like, I'm not gonna like dispute what my eyes are telling me. Like, and I think that Wilder did look off in that fight. Do I think his water was spiked by Mark Breland? Absolutely not. Like, do I think his water may have been spiked? Possibly. Who knows? But did I think he looked off in that fight? Of course. I mean, like there's a lot of people that I talk to the story or about. I mean, I talk about this topic to other people who like think that Wilder's not being holding himself accountable for losing in this fight, and they like bring up the fact that Wilder didn't look right in this second fight, and they like are way more pessimistic about this story than I am. But do I think that something funky may have happened? I do think so, but I mean, like, if I think so, maybe Wilder thinks so too. And I mean, if he probably should have had that frame of thinking, maybe 2 days after the fight, and like if he didn't come out and like say that something was awry, like a couple days after the fight, like or a month or two after the fight, even, or several months after the fight, like like 3 or 4, and if he didn't come out and say that he thought he was cheated because he was trying not to compromise the third fight, then it's no excuse. I mean, like, I have no sympathy in that regard, whether you were cheated or not. I mean, like, it's very corny at this point. But let me know what you guys think. With that, I'm out. Peace.